It's midweek. Hello there. Good afternoon and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. We are on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. You can catch us live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. This is Joy News, independent, fearless and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon, Sissala West, Nasara coordinator for the governing New Patriotic Party, is battling for his life after sustaining a severe machete wound in that part of the country. We'll bring you updates, and we're live in the region for updates as the police open investigations to fish out the hoodlums who launched the attack. Also, in this package, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, CLOCSAG, have served notice that its members across the country will withdraw their services in the next 24 hours. We'll hear shortly from the group on what their exact concerns are with regard to the neutrality allowance. It's all coming up here on The Pulse as we also delve into the National Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education that's directing teacher trainees to fund their own feeding from the 8th of May. We'll find out exactly what their concerns are here on The Pulse. We also have entertainment and sports in the package for you. My name is Blessed Sogah. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lua Affordable Safe Sanitation. This afternoon as well, we're streaming live on YouTube, and all of our social media handles is at JoyNews on TV, Twitter as with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sogah. Thanks for choosing us, and please stay for details. Well, so this afternoon, we're starting our bulletin from the Upper West region. That's where our focus is. The New Patriotic Party in that part of the country is suffering a number of challenges as the Nasara coordinator for the Sissala West constituency, Musa Waliku Drisu, is this afternoon battling for his life at the Upper West Regional Hospital after sustaining machete wounds. He was allegedly attacked by some party thugs in the constituency. According to the brother of the victim, Razak Bagaya, this is the second time the Nasara coordinator has been attacked in that part of the country. Let's cross over now to the region, get more from correspondent Rafiq Salam, who's joining us currently at the Upper West Regional Hospital, where he has been monitoring the situation. First of all, Rafiq, help us understand this. So how is the victim himself faring after last night's attack? Rafiq, if you can hear me, I'm asking about the victim at the center of all of this. How is he faring now?
I was at the hospital a couple of hours ago, and then also the victim at the moment is somehow stable, but is still somehow in critical condition because the information I got from the hospital is that he has to go under the knife tomorrow. He has severe wounds from various parts of his body, his left, right, and also even his head, and including his legs. Various parts of his body where you can get a machete wounds on those places. And so as we speak now, he is in stable condition, but he has to go under the knife tomorrow, according to doctors.
Right.
His relatives and also some friends are also around the hospital, and then for them to see how things are panning out at the hospital.
And earlier today, we understand that the governing New Patriotic Party in that part of the region held a press conference blaming the regional minister for the incident. Is this really, first of all, a party position, or this being advanced by some aggrieved members of the party in that part of the country?
Blessed, let me answer your question this way. The NPP somewhere in the Upper West region, for that matter, the Sissala West is divided. So you have two strong factions in the party in the Sissala West, talking about the side of the former MP, Adama Alasan, Patrick Adama Alasan, who happens to be the former member of parliament for the area and also the immediate parliamentary candidate of the party. So these are two sides that don't see eye to eye with each other. They are sworn enemies. And so when this issue of police station elections came up, there will definitely be a lot of, argument and also disagreement between these particular factions. Okay. And so it's all started when they started to do the police station executive elections. And so when, they did about, I think about 28, 30 police station executive police station elections, and they've been having some disagreement and also a lot of violence that characterize all these police station executive elections.
Okay.
And it has been on the quiet. And I think that some of the things that have happened in that particular constituency has happened not under the word of the media or some people. But what happened a couple of days ago was really something that broke the camel's back, where you have the national coordinator of the party who was attacked by some persons belonging to one of the factions and allegedly brutalized, and he was rushed to the Bolu Hospital, later to the Upper West Regional Hospital. And so these are two sides, one belonging to the former member of parliament for the area, and also the current parliamentary candidate, the immediate past parliamentary candidate of the party. But as you rightly said, the press conference that was done this morning, held by Abdul Rauf Aziri, they have accused the Upper West Region Minister and some regional executives of the new political party in the Upper West Region have been the mastermind, have been the brain behind some of these things. According to them, they are saying that the minister and some of his cohorts or his cabals are trying to manipulate the elections in the favor of a certain guy called Abdul Majid. I tried to speak to the Upper West Region Minister. I called him on those allegations. He appears to be surprised about those allegations that have been leveled against him. And then in the next few hours, he is saying that he will respond to those allegations leveled against him.
Then.
But for now, he is saying that he's not part of it, and he called it balderdash, that he has no interest in those party constituency elections in that particular constituency.
Rafiq Salam giving us the very latest from the Upper West region, and I'm sure that many of you still watching the JoyNews channel are wondering what exactly triggered this attack. Here's the Upper West PRO for the Ghana Police Service, Chief Inspector Gideon Boateng, giving us details from the area.
There is this case which occurred during the wee hours of last Tuesday within this month, that's 19th of this month. So police had information from a good Samaritans that this man, Walaki Idrisu, now the victim, was being brutalized or butchered. And then the man is about 45 years old and he was being manhandled by some group of people numbering about 10.
Okay.
That the incident occurred around 10 o'clock p.m. the previous day. That was Monday evening, but we had information around the wee hours, as I earlier on said. So police proceeded to the local scene, the scene of crime. That the incident occurred at a place called Hospital Junction in the Golu town. So police had the man being wounded with suspected cardiac wounds. So he was sent to the Golu government hospital for further treatment. As I speak to you now, things didn't end up over there. The regional police command and its men proceeded by transporting the man or referring the man to the WA hospital, regional hospital here. Wow. Now I speak to you now, he's responding to treatment. I will say that 2 people have been arrested and are assisting police in our investigations. They are Tora Kanjunu, age 30 years, and a farmer, as well as Valasin Baguka, age 39 years. Both of them are farmers and they are with the police and now assisting police with our investigations. And we strongly believe that the perpetrators or the others will be apprehended to assist in investigations. The Upper West Regional Police Commander, in the person of DCOP Mr. Peter Ndakugri, is putting this across to the general public, to especially the people of Upper West here, that they shouldn't have the mandate or the power to take the laws into their own hands, but rather report any incident of such nature to the police for police to take any necessary measures so that investigation may prove otherwise, and then perhaps may even get additional people or the perpetrators who might have fled or whatever. They shouldn't ever retaliate. If anything happens to any other person, please once again, they should quickly report to the nearby police station or to the regional police command. And we have district commanders, station officers, regional crime officer, 2IC, unit commanders, regional commander himself to report such incident to the police for us to pursue and make sure that justice prevails as much as investigation may be conducted. So he who will be found wanting or culpable will face the full rigor of the law.
So let's find out here on the Pulse exactly what is the new patriotic party in the constituency doing about this. Constituency Secretary Abdul Razak joins us now. He's on phone. Razak, thank you for your time. We understand that the attack follows some misunderstanding between factions which are beginning to erupt within your party in the Upper West region. What steps are you taking as party leadership to address the situation? Razak, if you can hear me, I'm asking about the decision that's been taken by leadership of the NPP in that constituency as we speak.
Hello.
Razak, I'm asking about the immediate steps you're taking to address the situation.
Immediate what?
Steps you're taking as leadership of the NPP in the constituency to address the situation.
So, immediately we have told the police, and the police have made the arrest. That is, and we are still following the police to the remaining people that are captured on the video. That is what will calm the situation in the new town.
Have you identified, and I'm sorry, persons who are behind the attack? Are we aware of these people?
Yes, you know, God in His own wisdom doesn't want crime. And so while they were doing that crime, committing that heinous crime, some people were videoing. And so if the video that leaked, if we look at it, we can get as many as 12 people in that video who were committing the atrocities on the Nasara coordinator.
And we need to warn right now that some of the images you're seeing on the screens may be very uncomfortable for you, but these are excerpts of what's transpired in the constituency. Razak, so fill us in. Are you taking steps to suspend some of the persons that you've identified who are within your party and are behind this very attack?
Yeah, some are actually within our party. Some are also, I guess, supporters of an aspirant and a constituent chairman aspirant.
Yes, but I'm asking if you're taking any remedial measures or punitive measures, I should say.
So, the measures, we have informed the regional party, and the regional party will give us the go ahead. But within locally here, the measure we are taking is to rely on the police to make sure that the perpetrators are brought to book.
Interestingly, this is happening at the time the national executives have opened the floodgates for nominations to begin for the constituency elections. Don't you feel that given the fact that the situation is being acrimonious, there will be a need for you to hold on with the elections, particularly within the Upper West area?
So, you know, when we started the program, when we started the polling station election, we hit a rock, and we recommended to national that looking at the situation, if we could maintain all polling station executives, because we got up to 66 polling stations, leaving 28 polling stations. And so we recommended that, or we proposed to national through writing, that looking at the voter nature, and probably somebody can lose his or her life, and that will affect the party. The name of the party also is in question. So we should maintain the 28 polling stations. The old executives that are there, we should maintain them. And out of the 28 polling stations, 12 of them are a new polling station created during the 2020 general election. And so we also feel there some people to act as executives to oversee the election in those new polling stations. So we recommended that these people should be maintained so that we will not have the problem of us catalyzing each other. We don't have the problem generating acrimony among ourselves. But the National Party in their wisdom dissolved the committee and formed a new committee, and that committee came entirely, there was no local person, nobody from constituency was part of that committee. And the committee came and did east, west, and left. And now this is the result that we are getting.
Okay, then. We'll keep our eyes on the ground. Abdul Razak, thank you. He's the constituency secretary there where the Golo attack happened. But the race for the presidential slot of the New Patriotic Party as well is heating up. An online survey is already out, conducted by the Global Info Analytics, which places the Minister for Trade and Industry, Alan Chermating, ahead of his possible contender, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, for the vacant flag bearer slot of the New Patriotic Party, which is all happening before the 2024 general elections. The opinion poll further revealed that the minister who contested the current president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in 2007 for the same position is more popular among floating voters than the sitting number 2 man, which is the Vice President of the Republic. The poll by the research firm asked the question, quote, if you were a delegate at the next NPP presidential primaries, which of the following candidates will you vote for? The verdict is out there, and you have that right on your screens, indicating what the approval and disapproval rates are. There are some people who say, well, we don't have an opinion on that. And when it comes to, as of January, the opinion clearly indicates that some 8% did not have an opinion. And that we also do know that the approval ratings vary for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and then for Alan Chermating as well. There are several aspects of this findings which dwells on the NPP and the NDC as well. But what we're focusing on this afternoon has got to do with the Vice President and the Trades Minister, Alan Chermating. But first of all, in terms of those who can create jobs, that question was also asked as to which of the candidates you believe can create jobs for the teeming youth of this country. Some 46.10% say they would trust John Mahama to do that. Dr. Bawumia, interestingly, is following through with some 23.69%, and then you have Alan Chermating following through with some 19.34%. And they believe that some other candidate may, of course, best manage issues of job opportunities. And there are so many sectors that they talk about. But then they go to the issue about the NPP primaries, the bigger question they've been asking about who you feel will be a better candidate. Obviously, what you see in the deep blue represents that for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and then Alan Chermating is the lighter blue. So what you have is that the trends vary depending on the region that you're dealing with. So as between January and April, if you look at the trends, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was leading. Even as at April, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia had the approval rating in terms of the opinion poll, and what the poll here and the trend is telling us. He was leading even at a peak of 58% at some point between January and April of this year. But then what you have is that there's a significant change in that trend between this same period within the Volta and then the Bono area. So within the Volta area, you have a higher approval rating for Alan Chermating, which is some 56%. And then for the Bono area as well, Alan Chermating seems to be topping up with some 51%. In almost all of the other areas, he appears to be in the lead, except that he is leading with a slim margin. So that's the same for the OT area. You have same for Volta, you have same for Western North, and you have same for the Western region and Eastern region as well, where it appears that the gap is quite close, but then Alan Chermating appears to be doing quite better. So that's the latest we're getting from Global Info Analytics on this in terms of the opinion poll regarding the Vice President and also the Trades Minister, Alan Chermating. But this, we need to state, has got to do with the general voter population. So they are not necessarily focused on delegates who would first of all decide who would have to lead the NPP in the 2024 elections. All that and more will be done for you in our subsequent bulletins. But now there's a developing issue which we need to bring to your attention. In fact, the Ministry of Education, as we understand, is reacting to the directive by Prinkoff. Prinkoff earlier indicated that it was directing all teacher trainees across the country to feed themselves on campus. But the Minister for Education, Dr. Educhum, as we understand, is addressing a press conference live, and we'll be taking you there shortly to bring you the very latest.
Thank you, PRO, and our distinguished media personnel who are here. I'm very happy today to inform you that government has released 67,942,652 cedis to colleges of education. I know you may have read the media reports. There were many calls on us to respond to concerns of Prinkoff, and we wanted to take advantage of your presence here to let the country know that the President of the Republic, the Finance Minister, and all those who have worked hard to ensure that various promises made to colleges of education are carried through has once again delivered on their promise. And that is why this amount has been released to colleges of education. Thank you so much for actually coming here on a very short notice so that we can address this important issue for our nation. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Well, so the confirmation is out there. Government has just confirmed that it has settled the amount that's needed to feed all teacher trainees across the country, which would therefore mean that that directive earlier indicated and issued by Prinkoff will not stand, given the fact that government is releasing funds to feed all teacher trainees across the colleges of education. But is that really the case? And perhaps why is government delaying, or why has there been a huge delay in terms of the release of the funds? Let's find out more. Many reactions have been greeting this. In fact, the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana have reacted to it. Prinkoff itself has concerns about the way government is handling this matter. Let's get all of those reactions for you. Jonathan Junu is the president for TTAC. He's joining us live now on Zoom. And we also have the National Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education, Prinkoff. Their executives will be speaking to us shortly. But let me start off with you, Jonathan, if you're on with us. Now there's a confirmation from the Ministry of Education that at least the funds have been released. Are you happy about this development?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you and your viewers. And good afternoon to teacher trainees across the 46 public colleges of education. Yes, just as the minister has mentioned, we are only hoping that payment will be done. First of all, I want to thank them very much that moves have been made to release funds and then pay the allowance of teacher trainees and then giving the feeding component to the principals. So we thank the government very much, but we are expecting that the disbursement will be done as early as possible so that teacher trainees can equally receive their allowance.
Initially, how bad was the situation? I mean, prior to this announcement that we are getting from the education minister?
Yes, it was a very terrible situation, as I keep saying every day. Some students would have to borrow money on campus. Some up to now have not been able to access their results because they couldn't pay their examination fee. So it is a terrible situation until now.
Okay, so ever since the last time we engaged, and the last time we engaged, I quite recall that you were talking about arrears, the teacher training arrears topping some 7 months. Understand that's what you were telling me. That's right. That's correct?
Yes.
7 months.
Yes.
So do you know for a fact if for now government is releasing all that tranche to you, or perhaps the payments will be made in installments? Have you engaged government on that?
Well, our last engagement was with GTEC. And they gave us the assurance that the monies will be paid and arrears will be cleared. And if possible, the 2021-2022 academic year arrears will also be cleared. So that is what we are hoping for, that government, as a matter of agency, release the money and then pay the teacher trainees.
Yes. So what you're asking for is the full payment to be made. You wouldn't tolerate if that is being done in installments. At least if you have that for this month, will that suffice?
You see, the issue is that if the money is paid in installment, we will go around and come back and be having the same discussion again. That is our problem. If the money is paid in installment, we will go back, come to this same spot and be having the same conversation. So we are hoping and pleading that the money should be paid in full.
Just hold on for me, Jonathan. Let's hear from Dr. Emmanuel Nyamiche. He's the national president of PRINCOF. In fact, they issued the directive since morning, which is necessitating the reaction from government now as to the fact that many of your colleagues there have to find a way of feeding yourselves on campus. But Jonathan, just before we hear from Doc, this is one thing that you need to paint a picture for us on. The concern out there is that there are some variations even in the teacher training allowances that you're being given now. Are the terms different from what it used to be?
No, the amount you receive is the same as it used to be. The only difference here in payment is that the level 100s, when payment is being affected, the level 100s, they will only receive 3 months. That's level 100s. They will only receive 3 months. But the level 200, 300s, and 400s, they would have to be paid for the 7 months. That's the only variation.
We're not too clear with that. So what you mean is those are the lower levels will not have the same amounts as compared to those of you who are in your final year?
Yes. That's the level 100s because they just came to school. Yes.
Okay, so what we also understand is that you're writing exams now, and that's why you're in very dire needs of the funds. How are you coping now that, I mean, as we await the funds, now that we know that at least it's on its way? It never used to be the case, but how are you making up for that shortfall, the fact that most of you are writing your exams?
It has not been easy for us. It has not been easy for us as students because even books to buy, handout to buy to study has become a problem for us. Like I mentioned, some students would have to go and borrow money. If you speak to some of the principals, they will tell you that the students sometimes come to them to borrow money to buy books and even feed themselves. So you see that it was a very terrible situation. Very, very terrible.
Interesting.
The trainees have suffered. They've suffered.
Right. And this is also happening at a time when the non-teaching staff had declared a strike. Are they back to their normal service? I mean, this is just a time when we also understand they are negotiating with government over their concerns. So it's as though the situation is not too clear right now what the future holds for many of you.
During our last engagement with GTEC, we had a letter from SENSAC where they suspended their strike. So during our engagement, we were assured that they won't be going back to the strike again. That's the assurance we had from GTEC, that discussions were going to take place to make sure that their issues are attended to so that they will remain at post. So we are holding on to those ways.
Okay, let's see about that. Just hold on for us, Jonathan. Larry K. Agbado is also editor of Colleges of Education Weekly Journal. Larry, what reports, first of all, are you getting from across the campuses on what exactly the true situation is? Are students leaving campus? Is that the case?
All right, so currently, good afternoon to you, President, and then good afternoon to your viewers across the country. Currently, students are not leaving campus. Students are all stationed on campus now. I think most of them got to hear about the news here this morning that from the 8th of May, they are supposed to leave their booths to start feeding themselves. And it's coming to some of them as a surprise because, as Jonathan said, these are students who are not financially sound at the moment they find themselves. The level 100s just left their various campuses. That was last week. They have ended a full semester. So they are home currently. I think we currently have level 300 or so on campus now. Another batch will be joining them this week. So the situation on campus is quite calm for now. I think the news coming in from the Ministry of Education, the press conference that was addressed by the Honorable Minister, is quite refreshing. I think this should be a relief for the principals. This is something they have been holding for a very long while now. They just didn't know how to voice it out or how to bring it out until that statement was issued by the Executive Secretary of PRINCOF. As to how this can be sustained, as to how the payment of this allowance will continue for the years to come, it's a topic for another day. But I think the earlier we get to accept the reality that, look, we are finally getting to that age or that time where we probably have to say goodbye to the payment of the trainee teachers allowance and open the colleges, use such resources to develop the colleges with infrastructure, open the colleges to operate, admit more students. Then I think, because for how long are we going to continue this? So if PRINCOF had not come out with this statement to express the situation in the colleges, it means that they will have just kept quiet and kept suffering. The colleges currently, their number one problem is not the payment of trainee teachers allowance. I know Jonathan and his group will not take it lightly with me for this,
Right,
but
yes.
the number one problem in the colleges right now has to do with infrastructure. And I can't blame government for this, because if you look at the money government is paying for trainee teachers allowance, as a father, if you are pushing such money into the payment of trainee allowance, it will be unwise to push other resources into their infrastructure, because there are other sectors they need to look into. So for me, the development of the colleges of education currently lies in the hands of the trainee teachers and PRINCOF. They need to come out and say, look, you fed us enough. It's time we replace the allowance with something else. If they have to resort to just feeding them, or they all resort back to the days of just the student loan from the student loan trust fund, so that at least we can look. It's time we separate politics from our educational life, and as a country, that is the best way.
So you feel this is more about politics, but let's see what TTAG thinks about this, Jonathan, and that has been the concern of some experts as well. They believe that, I mean, critically assessing the situation, this is the time to scrap the teacher trainee allowances. What's the position of TTAG on that? What's the position of your association on that, Jonathan? Jonathan, you'd have to unmute for us. We want to understand what you think about this, and that's the opinion one of your colleagues has shared, that the fact that we need to scrap the teacher trainee allowances.
This is
Jonathan, kindly unmute so we can hear you.
Why? The question is, why should the allowance be cancelled? Why should the allowance be cancelled? Look, there are good reasons why this allowance should be maintained. There are good reasons. So if he is pinching his argument around the fact that there are infrastructure deficits, so allowance should be cancelled, we disagree. We equally have reasons why we think that allowance should be maintained, and we strongly believe it's for that reason that is why the allowance was installed when it was cancelled. We have teacher knowledge of we model how we want the country to be. We shape the future, the growth and development of this country. So any government that thinks about the future of this country should see to it that during the training process of the teachers, certain cushioning is given to them, and the allowance is one. Look, we don't have control over our posting. After graduating, we are posted to places where we don't have control over. We go there, the conditions are not good, but we stay there and work for the betterment of the country with no allowance. But we are okay. So government feel that yes, something should be training. You understand?
Right.
And also put this forward. Any challenge that comes with education in this country, the first people that are hit hard, that feel the heat, are the teachers.
But at least for now, you're just trainees. I guess you're just trainees. You're now learning. So that has been the concern.
Yes.
How about opening
Yes.
up, allowing the
Yes.
system to run?
We are just learning. We are learning to go there and face the challenges. So government should feel that, okay, let me give you that cushioning. And that's what government is doing. So if you are saying you want to cancel it, we don't agree. Teacher trainees will not agree.
Okay. Just hold on for me, Jonathan.
If not, teacher trainees will suffer.
Okay, we'll delve deeper into that matter, but fortunately, Dr. Emmanuel Nyamiche is joining us. He is National President of PRINCOF. So, Doc, here we are. Government has just announced that they'll be releasing the funds needed for issues of, feeding on campus. Is that a good development for you? Hello, Doc.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, so good news, isn't it? Government says
very good news, and that has been the expectation. And so we are very excited about it.
Are you now clear on what has been accounting for the delays in payments?
Well, I can't put a finger on anything, honestly, because I'm not privy to what the challenges could have been.
So do we have clarity now as to what tranche should be paid to you in terms of the arrears that's been owed?
We don't have any timelines. We don't have any indication yet. But the good thing about all of this is that we would receive some money. And once we get that, we would quickly sort out our suppliers, and then they would continue to supply us with the food items that we need.
And I guess it's not as though the funds would hit your accounts immediately, so which would mean that there's a need for some interim measures. Having consulted with your colleagues, what are you going to do in the interim as you await the funds to arrive?
Yes, sorry about that, the interruptions. We have always done this with our suppliers. The rapport is there, we talk to them, and once they even know, they have the indication, they are convinced that some money would be given very soon, they would continue to give us the food items that we asking for. The problem has been that they are not sure when they would be paid. And once that assurance is not given, then they are reluctant to supply. But once they have heard from officialdom, credible sources, that the money would come, why not? We can talk, and then they will begin to give us the food items that we need.
Your initial directive was questioned by some parents as well, the initial demand on trainees to find their own means of feeding. What informed that decision, really?
What informed this is that we didn't want a situation where our students would have to go home. We want to, as much as possible, keep our students on campus. So once we have this understanding, we reach this understanding that they would fend for themselves, stay on campus, go through their academic work. Anytime the money is paid, we refund same to them. Then we don't disrupt the academic calendar. That was our worst fear, a disruption in the academic calendar, because it's already very tight. And for the first time, we're going to do up to 23rd December. And so you can imagine what would happen if we lose 1 week out of that. It's going to seriously affect us. And we don't want to go into 2023.
But all of this was happening at a time when teacher trainee allowances were not paid for close to 7 months. So that was going to be a very difficult time for students.
What has aggravated the situation is the fact that prices of food items in the market have gone up in all the food items. And so the suppliers want to increase the amounts involved. And we cannot allow that because we haven't had a raise in the minimum daily amounts that are given to us to feed the students. So once we allow that, it's going to have dire consequences on us. That is where, otherwise, if the market prices remain stable, the suppliers would understand that the money will be paid because they have always waited. But this time they are feeling very reluctant because they want to increase. We don't want them to increase. And so we are where we are because of what is happening worldwide in as far as trends in the market are concerned.
All right, then. I'm grateful, Dr. Emmanuel Nyamiche. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's wrap up on this conversation. Jonathan, so there's a way forward now. What's your expectation as activities return to normal? Jonathan, there's some normalcy that we're expecting. At least, what's your expectation going forward? Yes, Jonathan, if you can hear me, I'm asking about your expectations going forward. It appears that we're having some challenges then, but thank you, gentlemen, for your time. This is still The Pulse. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories. Please stay. Well, you're welcome back to The Pulse. Now, today is World Malaria Day, and data from the Ghana Health Service shows decline in the number of malaria cases here in the country. The Western region remains a major hotspot, with cases actually climbing yet again. Shortly, we'll be joined by officials of the Ghana Health Service and the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, who've been looking into the problem of malaria here in Ghana. Let's bring you some data on malaria here in the country. Ghana is amongst 11 countries which contribute to 80% of sub-Saharan African malaria cases, and it is having a toll on healthcare delivery here in the country. Nearly half of all of our outpatient department visits at the country's hospitals, that's around 41%, were suspected to be malaria, with 20% of those confirmed as being the case. Nearly 20% of the hospital admissions as well were due to malaria, with 1% of inpatients dying as a result of the disease. It is the highest disease expenditure on the NHIS, whilst it's estimated to have reduced the country's GDP by some 0.25 to 6%. We can now listen to Dr. Kezia Mam speaking at a news conference in Accra today to mark the World Malaria Day.
Just the ending of last year, in October 2021, WHO gave a positive recommendation of the pilot that we did. So it's recommended that the use of the vaccine should be expanded, and currently there are mechanisms going on, there are discussions going on as to the modalities for the expansion, the resources, the vaccines, how we'll get them, what quantities we'll get. So I'm sure very soon, when things are well defined and set, we would come to the media and tell them exactly how and where the expansion would be, how much we need, where the vaccines are coming from. But we know that eventually we'll be expanding beyond the pilot district. Go on, we'll be able to give more details as to where the funds will come from, certainly from donors and the government as well. But the specifics we are still negotiating and working on those. Yeah, it's a cause to worry that they are recording high cases, but I mean, you can get the nets, and if you don't use them, it's just like you haven't got them. So even though they are effective interventions, we have situations where people are not patronizing these interventions, and that's why we are seeing some of these statistics. Thankfully, the deaths are going down because our medicines are effective. People are getting to the health facilities earlier, but we need people to embrace the interventions well. If you can't sleep in a mosquito net, get indoor residual spraying in your homes, and then we'll all together fight this disease.
Well, so that's Dr. Kezia Malm, National Malaria Control Program Head. A very worrying burden there, but it's not all doom and gloom, as there are interventions, trials, as we understand, and a number of things that are happening to address this worrying trend. So first of all, there's the use of insecticides for bed nets, addressing the sanitation issues as well, sensitization, and we also have the issue of vaccination. So what's the plan to address this particular issue? Joining us in studio now is Dr. Nana Yao-Pepra, who's the medical epidemiologist at the Ghana Health Service, for us to have this conversation. We'll be also speaking to some other officials to help us understand what's happening in terms of malaria here in the country, Ghana, and what can be done to effectively address the situation. Dr. Pepra, such a good time to have you in our studios. So talk to us, first of all, about malaria. And well, we've heard the statistics, we've heard about the figures as well, but are we safe? I guess that's what everyone out there wants to know.
Yeah, so if you look at the statistics, I guess we are very safe. We are safe because we have come very far. 2017, we're recording about 600 mortalities a year for malaria. Last year, we recorded 275. It means we are doing it. It means something is working. There's a deliberate.
When you say 275, you're
275 mortalities.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, these are numbers that you say, okay, there's a reduction. But if we all know that if your relative is part of the 275,
it's not a nice development for you.
You know, so it's a good reduction. It's something that we can be proud of. What it means is that we have interventions in place that is working. And so we can't say we are safe because we are working and the incidents are reducing, mortalities are reducing.
But then the effective way to put an end to this is, I guess, the concern for many of you at the Ghana Health Service. There are issues of vaccination, there are issues about treatment itself, but let's start from treatment. The drugs we're having, and just as we heard from the head of the program, indicating that the drugs are becoming more efficient. Is that gradually replacing that program for vaccination entirely? Is that the case?
No, not really. So basically what she was saying was that you remember we used to have chloroquine.
Okay.
We're giving a lot of injections, we're taking medications, we're suffering. Unfortunately, over the years, it lost its efficacy, and we had the ACTs. So what we have now is the ACTs, and the ACTs are working very well. So even in the event that you have malaria, we don't expect that you die if you go to the facilities early, because the ACTs we have are working very well. The vaccines are not in to replace any of the interventions. The vaccines are aimed to add on to the interventions, and that's why we are happy about it, because with the interventions we had earlier on, we've been able to make some progress. So with the addition of the vaccine, it means that we can clearly see elimination in sight. So I believe strongly that we are very safe. We shouldn't be worried at all. If only we are going to use the interventions very well.
So really, where are we now in terms of vaccines? Have we made progress? Have we made a breakthrough? Because we had reports some time ago that even here in Ghana, some trials were being done. What's the status?
So if you remember, I think in the first quarter of 2019, we announced the pilot or the phased implementation of the RTSS vaccine. This was done in 3 countries, including Ghana. So Ghana, Malawi, and I think Kenya. Right. And this vaccine was, the phase 3 clinical trials have been done. We knew that it had some level of effectiveness. But the objective of the phase implementation was to see how it's going to function in the routine system. So from 2019 to date, this has been done. And just October last year, the WHO concluded that looking at the data available, it would be a good thing to roll out across the countries. And so...
Also it started?
Yes. So wow. We've done the phase implementation. Okay. Now we know that it can be implemented as part of the interventions. But of course, you need donors, you need partners to come on board, to bring us money, and then we have to produce more before we can implement it across the country. So it is being implemented in some districts, but for us to roll it out, there's still some discussions with stakeholders.
It appears it went under the radar, probably because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Is that the case?
In 2019, I think there was a lot of noise about it. Then COVID came in 2020, and maybe it went under the radar a bit. But I think we made a lot of noise about it.
So what's the plan for coverage? Or is it the case that we're just trying it for now and that it's not safe for you to just walk in and say, I need a malaria vaccine?
We are not trying it. Now we have gone beyond
the trial. Yes. So can I walk in? Can I go into any facility and say?
The vaccine is actually for children under 5.
Okay.
You know, they are the most vulnerable group. Right. So it is not for adults. For the children under 5, if you are in a district where it is being implemented, if you take your child for vaccinations, you'll be given. Okay,
so this is just for that age group?
Yes.
But how about the adult population? These are persons who also could have malaria as well. So why are you not covering them on this package?
So as I said, this trial was done within that age group, and we realized the effectiveness within that age group. Okay. We also have to note that, as we keep on saying, the effectiveness of the vaccine was around 30-40%. It wasn't like the other vaccines that are usually around 80-90%. But the good news is that for those of us in endemic areas, for instance, you might have carried some parasite, malaria parasite, and not get the disease. You know, so comparing you to the child under 5, that person is more vulnerable. So the concentration was more on the children under 5 to protect them. And also, as we protect them, we get to protect you, because then the parasite will not carry a parasite. The mosquito will not carry a parasite from the child to you, because it has been cleared.
So, yes, preventive measures as well. I'm sure that you are not losing sight of that. So give us some public education on that.
Great. So at the program level, what we do is to preach prevention, because we believe that it works very well and it helps everybody. So we distribute a lot of mosquito nets, insecticide-treated nets. And what we do is to distribute this every 3 years. So every 3 years, we do what we call a mass distribution. In 2019, 2020, 2021, we distributed some nets across the country. We also distribute nets at the antenatal clinics. If a pregnant woman goes to the facility for the first time, the pregnant woman is given net for free. If a child is taken to the clinic for child welfare clinic and is due for measles 2 injection, the child is also given net for free. We also distribute net through the schools. So we try as much as possible to saturate the households with net. Aside that, we have an intervention called the larval source management. You know, the baby mosquito breeds in small waters, small fresh waters. What we encourage is that as we do environmental management, we clear our gutters, we clear the weeds around our communities. If there are pockets where we have the larvae, that's the baby mosquitoes, we spray those areas. That's a larval source management. Aside that, we also have an intervention called the indoor residual spraying. In the indoor residual spraying, we have an insecticide which is sprayed in the interior walls of the rooms, and this insecticide could last for about 6 to 9 months. The approach is that after studying the behavior of the mosquito, when it bites, it goes to the walls to rest. So when they rest on the walls, they imbibe the chemicals on the walls and they are knocked down. You know, so these are all preventive interventions. We also have some chemo preventive interventions, like what we call the intermittent preventive treatment for pregnant women. If someone is pregnant and goes to the hospital and is 16 weeks, we give them a medication called sulfadoxine pyrimethamine. And with that medication, it prevents you from having malaria or bad outcomes from pregnancy. Because if a pregnant woman gets malaria, for instance, you could lose the baby. Yes, you could lose the baby. The baby could be small for age, and the mother could also die from the malaria. So we do all those things to prevent malaria.
And it's good that you're talking about insecticides. I just wanted to pick up your thoughts on that. Are there side effects to that, using that approach in dealing with malaria?
So because we know, of course, there could be some side effects if it gets close to human, right? And so that is why the insecticides are sprayed on the walls, and they are sprayed by people who are protected. So if you see them spraying, they have covered every part of their body, so that they don't even come into contact.
But there are commercial products out there.
So
for the commercial ones?
Yes, for the commercial ones, I think that we at the program level, we work with what the data says. So if we don't have evidence that your insecticide works and can actually kill the female Anopheles mosquito and prevent malaria, we are not going to ask anybody to buy a product. So we really don't talk about the commercial ones until we have evidence.
So it's not as though it's a broad stroke. You don't apply this to everybody to say, well, yours is not effective, and that there could be some...
Not at all. What we use are scientifically proven to be effective.
Products, right. But in fact, joining us now as well is Dr. Linda Eva Amwa, a Senior Research Fellow with the Immunology Department, Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. Dr. Eva, so we understand that there's a breakthrough in terms of vaccines as well. But today, first of all, let me take your thoughts on it. It's World Malaria Day. At Noguchi Center, how are you celebrating this day? And with regard to the breakthrough, what more can you tell us about the vaccination process as well? Dr. Eva, you would have to unmute for us so we can hear what exactly it is that you're telling us.
Okay, sorry for that. So thank you so much for having me. At Noguchi, we mainly do research, and we do with the malaria control program. So we work with Dr. and his team a lot. And for most of the evidence-based events, we probably carry quite an amount of research out for the NMCP and in partnership with them. This year, the World Malaria Day, well, every year, World Malaria Day is April 25, so it actually is falling on Monday. However, we have begun with publicity and a whole series of events just in counting down to the actual day itself. We have quite a lineup of activities. We'll be having a lot of educational campaigns in certain districts just to make people more aware of malaria, how to prevent malaria, how to treat yourself if you get malaria. We have documentaries that we are putting together, and then we have symposiums and other events. Now, coming back to the malaria vaccine. So, it is still in the infancy. We realized that for the past few years, we implemented a pilot study, we implemented vaccine trials, and we found that it was good to an extent. I mean, it's much better than not having anything at all, so we're very happy that at least we have it. But there is, we're still working on actually hoping that we would get some more effective vaccines to help with malaria eradication. I think that's probably what I would contribute to malaria vaccine. For now, as Dr. Pipa says, it's mainly for infants and children, and that's because they are mainly the ones who, when they get malaria, they actually can die because of malaria. Hopefully, we would get a product that we can use for the larger population. But for now, this is what we have. And
obviously, you are the experts. So how are you helping the Ghana Health Service to scale up education and also the understanding of many out there who want to know much more about the disease and how it works?
So, yes, we are the experts. How are we helping the Ghana Health Service? Well, we are always available if we are called upon to give talks. We actually do occasionally go around. So we work in a lot of communities. Most of us at Noguchi have projects where we're working in certain rural areas because malaria is actually more prevalent in rural communities than in the cities. So we do work in rural communities. With all the programs we have awareness debates, we have campaigns, we have educational programs with school children. So we actually do quite some amount of publicity. Yeah.
Okay then, Dr. Eva. So let me come to you, Dr. Pipa. And obviously we're talking about the need to scale up education. That's why I asked initially. So the point about getting to many people out there to understand how this whole thing, and because malaria, we just hear about it. We may not know much more about it, but just the mere fact that you hear about the disease, many people feel they know enough about it. What are you doing to scale up education on this subject?
Yeah, so you are friends, and you are key in this area. Yeah. So it is a deliberate effort to use the media, also use the social media platforms through Ghana Health Service website, our Facebook account, and the Twitter account, etc., to reach out to people. We also try as much as possible. You see, the Ghana Health Service structure is such that we are just not at the headquarters level. There's a regional, district, sub-district levels. And so at all the levels, it's expected that they meet the communities through their best and talk to people, go to the churches, go to the mosques and talk to the people, educate them about malaria. And so even though we'll be commemorating the World Malaria Day, say at Hohoi, right. It is going to be done everywhere across the country, and people will be educated. And we are not going to just do it on 25th, but any other day we are given the opportunity, we also use that and educate people.
Okay, so what's happening on the 25th? Exactly explain what the activities are and what are you seeking to achieve with that day?
Great. So before the 25th, on Saturday, there will be a health walk. We actually want to exercise so that we can have muscles to fight malaria. So there will be a health walk. And then on the 25th itself, we'll go to Hohoi. We are going to Hohoi because Hohoi happens to be one of the 6 districts that has been selected for pre-elimination. We are thinking elimination now. We think that we have to do away with malaria, but it has to be stepwise. So 6 districts have been selected to move them into pre-elimination, and Hohoi happens to one of them. So we go to Hohoi, we talk to the people there, we encourage them that pre-elimination is feasible, let's all come together and achieve that purpose. Aside that, after the 25th program, we are going to have a symposium, rightly as Dr. Linda Amwa said, where we are going to learn lessons from China, Algeria. They have eliminated malaria.
Oh, totally.
Yes. So we want to learn lessons from them and see how we can also do same. And then SITME, what we'll be doing is to organize an award night. Where we are now, some people contributed.
Right. But I'm interested in the story of others, the countries that you mentioned who have completely dealt with the disease, so which means that you won't find the case when you go into their community.
Yes. So there could be.
Did they achieve that largely by dwelling on the treatment or using the approach of the vaccination? How did they really achieve it?
In fact, they even didn't have the opportunity of the vaccination.
Wow.
So they were using the same interventions we have available to us. So all we need to do is to ensure that we scale up on the interventions and we get people to use them. So if you have a net, use the net. If you look around you and there are breeding sites, you have to try and clear them. When we are all part of the process, we can achieve elimination just as Algeria and China have done.
And let me bring in Dr. Eva on this one. Dr. Eva, here we're looking for the best strategy, or Dr. Linda, we're looking for the best strategy, the approach that would suit us here in Ghana to learn from others and to achieve their target as well. For you, what's that best strategy in achieving that malaria-free situation here in Ghana?
For malaria-free, I think it's a mixture of interventions. Right. So as Dr. Pripra says, other countries have done this without vaccinations. And so vaccines would help, but nonetheless, we can still do it. We mix vector control with compliance in treatment, with just making sure that we protect ourselves from being bitten by the mosquito. I think we can prevent ourselves from getting malaria and reduce malaria transmission. And with that, eventually we'll get to eliminate the parasite. So it's not one intervention, it's going to be a mix of interventions and commitment to these particular interventions.
Is geography giving some advantage to other nations as compared to those of us here in Ghana?
Oh, I would think so, because in some places you don't have mosquitoes prevalent or present. Here we have mosquitoes almost year-round, and with the mosquitoes you have malaria transmission. So one of the major targets is to reduce the population of the mosquitoes, and with that we would have fewer mosquitoes causing transmission, and then we'll be able to help ourselves.
There are many who say, I mean, the disease itself is it's no longer scary. I mean, when you compare that to other diseases that we're hearing of here in the country and what we're hearing from our health experts and all of that, it appears we are fixated on just some. Maybe, and the perfect example here is COVID. So, given that situation, do you feel that the whole focus on malaria is shifting to other areas?
But I think that's actually a problem, though. So, malaria probably kills more Ghanaians than COVID. And so in as much as we have put so much efforts into COVID, if we had probably put half as much in malaria, we probably would have been in pre-elimination in quite a number of regions as opposed to just the select few. Problems. COVID is global. There is money in other countries and everybody is protecting themselves from COVID. But we need to focus, I think, a bit more on the diseases that are prevalent here that are actually killing us Ghanaians. And malaria is, I think, one of them. Malaria is still a problem in Ghana. It's a very big problem in Ghana, and it really needs a lot of attention. And thank you.
It's interesting that you're giving us that analysis, the fact that it's in fact COVID, it's killing more people than COVID. Many of us never averted our minds to that.
Oh, but that's very true. I mean, COVID is new. We're not dying by COVID that much. Probably the people who are dying are in communities where you get to notice that they're gone. Most people who die with malaria are probably in rural areas where we are not even noticing that they are going that much. But that's a really big problem. I think it's a very big problem that we need to channel in more efforts to getting rid of it.
Right. So we need to be wrapping up on this conversation. Dr. Pepper, let me take your final words on this, and then I'll come to Dr. Linda as well.
Maybe before the final words, if you have a disease that is contributing to 20% of your OPD,
right,
it's something that you should
be paying attention to.
I mean, so, and you're spending a lot managing malaria cases across the country. If there was a study that was done by Schroeter & Co. in 2019, and they demonstrated that if we are able to invest to end malaria, we are going to save billions of US dollars. The ones we are using in testing and treating, it all be economic gains for us. So it is something that we really have to focus on. We shouldn't be used to it, as business as usual. My final words, I think that we have demonstrated that elimination is possible. What we are asking is that we should all come on board. There should be a paradigm shift where people begin to think that we are now moving towards elimination and not stay at control. So the media, private sector, they should come on board, give funds to fill in the funding gap so that we can give advanced interventions and ensure that people have what they need to end malaria. Once again, malaria elimination is feasible. Let's try and get this thing done. Well,
obviously, we'll be on the lookout for the national celebration next week, right? Yes. Next week, as Ghana also plays its role in marking the day, but still on health as well. We know that starting tomorrow, the Ghana Health Service says it will roll out another phase of the COVID-19 vaccination. Let's get details of this. Joining us now is Sophia Quist. She's the Ayaso North Municipal Health Director. Dr. Quist, first of all, tell us about tomorrow's vaccination restart. What do we need to know about the exercise?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on this program. Well, for tomorrow's program, we're starting tomorrow. That's 21st of April. And we're starting with all vaccination from age 15 years and above, including pregnant women, and then to the elderly. So we are starting with, we have all the vaccines available. We have Pfizer, J&J, we have AstraZeneca. And then we are including our pregnant women because from the last year, March, we couldn't start with them because of data issues. But now, thankfully, we have them joining the program. And so we are going to vaccinate them as well. And we're actually going to make sure that we vaccinate all our eligible clients in terms of, for Greater Accra, we've been able to vaccinate over 50%. That's for the first dose only. And then for those who have been fully vaccinated, over 30%. So our main target is to now get those who have not been able to get their full vaccination. That's the second dose. And then we look at the booster as well. So our main target now is to clear those who are left of us in the remaining about 20% to have their first dose, and then we'll take on with the fully vaccinated. So this is our main focus from tomorrow. Thank you.
But initially, when the first phase started, there was this complaint about people not taking advantage of it. What's the different? What approach are you taking now? How different is that? Just to get more and more people to come on board and participate?
Well, we all know it's been a bit challenging, though we had initially, I think from December during the Christmas festivities, the uptake was good. However, when the face mask mandate was lifted, now we are seeing less people taking the vaccine. However, we have about 29 districts in terms of health, and so we have engaged all district directors to ensure that we mobilize the community, we engage the community elders, we engage the community volunteers. Thankfully, we have community volunteers right from the community. So once you engage them, they approach the people, they talk to the people. For instance, in Ayawaso North, Ayawaso East, we engage the community because we have language barrier. So when you engage the community volunteers, they talk to the people, they understand them, and they are even part of the program now. So our new strategy now is to involve the community volunteers the community elders, the assemblymen, to help us and ensure that all the community people are taking the vaccine. So this is our new strategy. We're also going to do door-to-door approach. Though we still have the static ongoing, we have the door-to-door. That is, we walk to every door, we make sure that, are you vaccinated? We ask you. If you are not, we encourage you to take it. If the first dose, we explain to you why you should take the second dose. Because we are all aware that now, even though we are not mandated to wear the face mask, elsewhere in the Western countries, they are still recording some cases. Recently, we heard of China, of their recent lockdown, because there's new variants of the Omicron. And so we need to encourage everyone to take this vaccine, even though we are not seeing it, how it happened last year. We still need to encourage.
Okay, but do we know about the centers, the number of centers you're creating, for instance, within the municipality itself? Dr. Chris, I'm losing you. Well,
the vaccine. Sorry.
Yes, Dr. Chris, I was asking about the centers. Do we know the number of centers you're creating, for instance, within the Ayasu municipality? Dr. Chris, if you can hear me, you would have to unmute first of all, but I'm asking if you have details of the centers, where the centers will be, so people can go and take their jab.
We have that. I cannot have that on offhead, but for instance, if you come to maybe Ayawaso, it's per district. So every district have, for instance, in Tema, we have the Tema Center, we have the maternity center. Most of the facilities are having the vaccines available. We have the assembly also taking part. We have the, for instance, in Mamobi General Hospital, we have the vaccines available. When you come to Malata, all the health centers are having part of this program. And then it's more of district specific. So we have that enlisted on our page. There's a Greater Accra website with all the 29 districts. I cannot say them offhead, but I'm sure of Kolebu Polyclinic. I'm sure of almost all the centers, Rich Hospital, Adabraka Hospital. All the facilities are all involved.
So in terms of the availability itself, the previous phase, we witnessed some challenges where people would go to the centers and they're told the vaccines are not available. Have you put in place measures to deal with that this time around?
Yes, now we have more vaccines available than before. In fact, we are actually encouraging everyone to take part, because we don't want the vaccines to go waste. Our main focus now is to vaccinate everyone included, all eligible vaccines. So we have more than available vaccines now. So there's nothing like you run out of vaccines. If you don't have, every district have vaccines available as we speak. The preparation has taken place, and we've actually done, every district has gone for their vaccines, and we are stocking every fridge with all our vaccines. So there's nothing like stock out or there will be run out of vaccines. No.
Do we have updates on the exemption list now? Initially, you were exempting, for instance, pregnant women from taking the jab. Have you worked on that now? Do we have clearance on whether or not these people can also go in for their vaccination?
Yes. Now, per date, all pregnant women are supposed to take the vaccine. There's nothing to be worried about. We have all the data to assure us that it's safe. It's safe for all pregnant women. It's safe for 15 years and above. So no pregnant women should be afraid of taking the vaccines. It's 100% safe for every pregnant woman.
And in this new phase, what's the number? What's your target, and how do you intend to achieve that target?
So, as I said earlier on, Greater Accra, I can only speak for Greater Accra, but not for national though.
Okay.
I don't have that off head. But for Greater Accra, we have a total eligible population of over 3 million. And per our previous vaccination, i.e. the NID we had somewhere in February, we're able to vaccinate, that's for those who took the second dose, about over 1 million population. And for those who took at least one dose, that's about over 80%. So our main target is to clear the 20%, ensure that all the 20% left to take their vaccine as in the first dose. And then the second dose, our main focus is to ensure that the 70% are also covered. So our main target is to cover first dose and the second dose, and then the booster as well. So we are encouraging all to take the booster.
What's the level of collaboration with faith-based organizations and some shopping centers? Initially, there was a partnership with some of these institutions and organizations just to expand your reach. Are you doing that this time around as well?
Yes. All hands on deck. So we're engaging all our private facilities, our NGOs. You know, we have the CHAG, that's a Christian health organization. They are also part of us. We're engaging. We're also reaching out to any NGOs who want to take part in this vaccination. All hands on deck, because now our main focus is to reach out to everyone. We are not discriminating against anyone. We are encouraging all on board. So our arms are open for any collaboration. And though, i.e., we have some part of us.
Dr. Quist, we're grateful that you've been able to update us on this exercise. It's April 21. Make sure that you take advantage of it. This is The Pulse. We'll return shortly after this break. Now, watermelon farmers in the Northeast region have been assured that the watermelon factory and the government's One District, One Factory initiative will be commissioned in the coming months. The operationalization of the factory was actually deferred from 2020 of March to this year, following what authorities had said was due to the procurement challenges affecting the project. But speaking to JoyNews, MC for Wale Wale, Mr. Somo Laki, says the factory setup is now at its final stage of completion. According to him, the project's private partner has given all indications that the factory will begin serving its purpose before the end of the year. There's more in the following report.
Of the Wale Wale watermelon factory in the West Mamprosi municipality of the Northeast region commenced in 2019 as part of the government effort to reduce rural-urban migration and revitalize the country's industrial base. The factory project is under the One District, One Factory initiative in partnership with Champion Foods and Beverages Limited, a wholly Ghanaian-owned beverage manufacturing, distribution and marketing company. It is being funded by the Exim Bank and scheduled for completion by the end of 2020. However, procurement challenges, according to authorities, caused the extension of the completion period to March this year. Speaking to JoyNews, the Chief Project Supervisor and MC for the area, Arabia Osomolaki, stated that all bottlenecks have been cleared to give way for the factory to start operations in the coming months.
It was on 16 December 2019 that the sod was cut, and it was supposed to finish in the middle of 2021. You understand? But you know, when that happened, there were some challenges with regards to the support to that particular project, because documentation and other things delayed. It was not that the eczema do not have the money, but documentation and other things delayed. And that is why, if you look at it, it stopped for some time and later on it picked up. But the good news is that the project had been completed, machinery had been brought. It is now left with the operationalization.
The precise location of the project is at Logre along the Wale Wale Tamale Road. Inside the facility, several types of equipment are littered around. We also observe new structures still being constructed. The MCE says although the project was delayed, it hasn't been abandoned, and that the people are grateful to the government for fulfilling most of its campaign promises made to them.
But we thank the government for thinking through and by giving us the watermelon factory. I must indicate the entire country, West Mamprosi is the leading producers of watermelon. in the entire country. It means that the government actually understands its people and what the people need. That is why they brought it. So even if it delays and start at any time, it's still a very good venture. But we wanted to commission this year.
The project is expected to create more than 300 direct employment and provide a ready market for between 2,000 and 3,000 peasant farmers. The completion of the project would also bring an end to the seasonal ritual of post-harvest losses, a phenomenon that has affected and continue to affect farmers and their communities.
But all things being equal, we expect that it should run before the end of the year.
From Wale Wale, Ilyas Sutanko, Joy News.
Well, so let's give you some updates of some of the trending stories around the world. We're focusing this time around on the Russian-Ukraine crisis. This time around, we're focusing on displaced persons. Thomas Parr is with our partner, Deutsche Welle. Let's get more from him on what the latest is. So, Thomas, give us an idea of just how many Ukrainians have left and where exactly they are headed.
Around 5 million Ukrainians have left the country since the war began in February, and about 7 million more have been internally displaced. This according to United Nations figures. Just to give you an idea of what that means, that's about a quarter of Ukraine's population. And that's why the United Nations, but also other organizations, are calling this the fastest growing refugee crisis since the Second World War. Most of those people have actually left to neighboring countries like Poland, like Romania, like Moldova, but also to other countries in Europe, including Germany. Germany is also dealing with the arrival of Ukrainian refugees, and as such, it is something that is affecting the EU as a whole. And that's why we've seen both national reactions coming from Germany, Poland, Romania, and so on, but also from the EU as an entity that groups the 27 nations. So this is certainly a big challenge, also a big challenge to the medium and long term. And this is why experts are also calling for the EU in particular to go beyond emergencies and dealing with situations like this, but also focusing in particular on medium to long term planning, because migration, they say, is a structural problem that is here to stay.
And Thomas, let's focus on Germany itself. How is Germany coping in particular?
Received around 360,000 refugees, so significantly a lower number compared to Poland or some of the other countries, but it's still a challenge here in Germany. And some of the problems that Germany faced in 2015 and 16 with the previous refugee crisis are also again being discussed. For example, burden sharing between federal authorities and local authorities that have to deal with housing, schooling, healthcare and so on. And that's why German leaders agreed on a €2 billion plan to precisely help with the integration of Ukrainian refugees. And this is happening also at a time when Germans are showing a lot of solidarity towards Ukrainians. The fear there expressed also by politicians is that you could have a sort of two system of refugees, where Ukrainian refugees are being dealt with in a very positive way, whereas refugees from other parts of the world have not had similar benefits. So this is also a problem that German authorities will have to deal with.
Okay, so let's talk about this one as well. The sense among Europeans, and have they been critical about the situation? We know that they're concerned, first of all, about migration issues, and this is a matter that's been a challenge for quite some time now. So how have they been receiving this news as well?
Actually, migration issues in the past simply revealed deep divisions within Europe. And in this particular case, we've seen a different scenario altogether, shows of solidarity both among governments and among citizens. But this is precisely why experts are actually calling for an overhaul to migration policies within the European Union, so that you don't have situations like the one now with Ukrainian refugees and then compared to the one in 2015-16, where you saw all those deep divisions and countries here in Europe unwilling to welcome refugees back then from countries like Syria and Iraq. So this is why the debate here is a debate that is here to stay. It is not only a debate, obviously, now about how to help refugees that are fleeing, that are still arriving in the European Union. It's also about how to deal with migration policies on a medium to long term as well.
Sparrows with our partners, DW, and you're still watching The Pulse. When we return, we'll do some sports.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on the JoyNews Pulse with me, Oriku Ampofo. Today we're looking at the top 4 race, which was once again been blown wide open after Manchester United's heavy defeat to Liverpool yesterday evening. Remember, results preceding that saw Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur all pick up defeat over the weekend, and Arsenal this time round today have a second chance against Chelsea to find themselves back into a race which looks like nobody wants to win in the end. And joining me in the studio is Joel Botte of the Joy Sports team as we look at Arsenal and then the top 4 race in general, who looks in pole position to be picking up the final slot to qualify for the UEFA Champions League next season. But before we begin the discussion, let's just take a look at the Premier League table in terms of how that top 4 race looks currently. So we'll be able to get a better understanding of where things do stand. Whilst we do wait for that, no, this is actually the fixtures. If we could get the table and look at how things do stand, and perfect. So Chelsea, we assume, with games in hand above the teams above them, should probably finish third, barring any dramatic circumstances in the end of the season. But Tottenham, Arsenal, Manchester United, West Ham, and possibly Wolves. Wolves, that would be a bit tough. But let's just look at West Ham, Manchester United, Arsenal, and Tottenham. Joel, this is how the table looks. What do you make of it so far, and what does this give you any idea of in terms of projections?
Looking at the table as it stands, it's quite dicey to pick who exactly makes the top 4, especially for the 4th spot. Chelsea look likely to make it, even though they do have a game against Arsenal today, and it won't be easy. They also have a game against Manchester United later. But aside these 2 teams, Chelsea have a much easier fixture and could possibly make that top 4. If you look at Arsenal and Manchester United, that is where the problem is. United losing yesterday to Liverpool by 4 goals means that they gave that opportunity for Arsenal to move a spot above them due to goal difference. And with a goal difference, United currently have 4. It would be a problem if they don't better their goal difference tally. And if you look at where Arsenal stand to, in their last 5 games, they've won just 1. Thomas Partey went down in the game against Crystal Palace, and they've not been the same. They've lost to Brighton, and also they lost to Crystal Palace in that game as well. So you could see that Arsenal have struggled in their last 5 games. And I feel the battle would also include Tottenham if they do lose that North London derby, which they face Arsenal. And I'd like us to look at the fixtures for the top 4 race, where we see Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, and we've seen Chelsea's game in hand. But let's look at Tottenham and Arsenal. We can see that Tottenham have Brentford next, Leicester, who currently are below 9th place, Liverpool, Arsenal, Burnley, and Norwich. That's basically 2 teams that are possibly in the top 6, or that could possibly be in the top 6. The teams remaining for Tottenham are a bit mid-level teams, lower teams, sorry, and that could favor them as well in terms of that. But let's not forget, when we look at Tottenham, Antonio Conte has spoken about the side, saying it's not been easy for them trying to get that top 4 finish. So he needs the squad to be at that level where they can actually make the results count. Arsenal would have to play Chelsea, United, play Tottenham, and also Everton, who are also struggling, Leeds as well. It's not going to be easy for Arsenal, looking at the teams that they've also lost to in the last 3 games. United, on the other hand, and as we go to the next set of fixtures, United, on the other hand, also have a bit of tough fixtures in there where they have Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal in there. And
they lost against Liverpool yesterday.
Sorry, they lost to Liverpool. Okay, so they have Arsenal and Chelsea remaining. And that's not going to be easy for them as well because they play them in their next 2 games. So should they drop points, it means that Arsenal would have some form of confidence going into their next or remaining fixtures. West Ham have been an incredible side for me. I think they've done so much and they've done really well this season. But they are playing in Europe still, and I feel that could worry them a bit with where they stand in the Europa League. And if they really want to make an impact it would it would be dependent on how they handle their players and how they use their squads in both Premier League and Europa games, just so they don't have the problem of fatigue and injuries setting in there. So I think the main battle will be between Arsenal, Tottenham, and United. But I feel United may drop out if they continue this run of form that they are on.
So who picks up that last?
That last spot, I'm going to give it to Tottenham. Looking at their fixtures and the form they've been on, I think they are the better side to take that fourth spot.
All right, thank you very much, Joel. That's how we wrap up the sports segment here. You can get some more sports stories on myjoyonline.com/sports, or follow us on social media at Joy Sports GH across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
Well, so that's all we have for you in this package of the Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on all of our stories there for you next.